Hi everyone, just jumping on as a quick intro to the video. Today we're doing slightly different. A few weeks ago I reached out to a fellow YouTuber and creator because why not? She also name checked me on her channel, so I thought why not use this opportunity to virtually meet for a discussion. We talk about knitting, creativity, the environment, all that good stuff, so please check it out. I've linked part 1 in the description below. This is part 2 of the discussion. Please enjoy. Hi everyone, I'm Natalie and I'm the creator behind All Homesteading YouTube channel and blog. Today I'm joined by a fellow creator. This is part 2 of our discussion, or day 2 of our discussion, where we talk about knitting and creativity and just general tea. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I am Isabella from Breathing Yarn. I get up to crafty things on my YouTube channel. And I'm just here for a great discussion.
Okay, so like our part 1, which is uploaded on Isabella's Breathing Yarn channel, so go check that out, and that will also be linked down below. We will also ease our way into our discussion today with this or that. Right. So are you ready to begin, Isabella?
I think so.
Okay, great. So this or that, rustic or silky yarn?
Silky yarn. I respect everybody that likes rustic yarn, but also, like, is your life too comfortable? Are you in need of some itch? Like, what is happening?
I'm the opposite. So this is a clear difference. I love rustic yarn.
What about it?
I'm not sensitive to it. So no, it's nice to sort of sometimes feel your clothes rubbing against, feel that friction. Wood or metal needles?
Metal.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the same. Blocking mats or towels?
Usually towels. I own blocking mats, and I almost always just end up using a towel.
Why do you prefer towels?
I can't be bothered. I have to roll it out on the towel anyways, and it's just sitting there. Or I'll just lay it without a towel, just flat on my dining room table with a fan pointed at it.
Yeah, I don't actually own proper blocking mats. I use like kids play mats that I bought super cheaply, and I love those.
That's the smart way to do it.
Yeah. Do you pin in place or you just lay flat?
Oh, if I bother putting it on blocking mats, I'm pinning the heck out of it. I'm either like one or the other, like nothing is happening or everything.
Colourful yarn or neutral yarn?
This is a bold take with what I'm wearing, but neutral yarn. If I could
seriously
one for the rest of my life, I would go all neutral.
Do you have a particular shade of neutral?
White is like
my really
favorite to wear.
Seriously? Okay, so white silky yarns. I think I have a place for both.
Yeah.
I tend to really crave colourful yarns and weird colour combinations like around January time to sort of stave off the winter blues, and then sort of as the year progresses, then we go back into neutrals.
I do love combining neutrals with a really bright color. So like my favorite color combo is like a medium beige with like a bright cherry red, and I like just taking random but like neutral with a crazy bright color. Yeah,
that's quite nice. It complements each other. I also really like undyed, like grey yarns from some rustic wools that I just
I love the look of rustic yarn, by the way. It looks stunning. They
do tend to get softer with time, which I quite like. So once you've worn it in a bit, definitely, it's definitely worth investigating.
I think I should buy a rustic woolly sweater that's already been worn in for me and then just unravel that.
I don't know what the effect would be, because usually when you unravel it's a bit crinkly. I've never done it. Have you unraveled like a store-bought sweater before for the yarn?
Not a store-bought one yet. It's definitely going to happen.
Is that the one that you unraveled? The one that
I did
you're
unravel
wearing.
this one, but I had made the original.
Yeah, no, I. So, how did you keep the colors together? I mean, when you unraveled it, how were the?
Yeah, so this is blown yarn, which is like the tube chain of cotton, and it's stuffed with wool. And so what I do is I take out some of the wool at the end of the chain, and then I stuff the other end of the chain into it so that it's like
One
interlocked in
continuous.
itself.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. A bit like split, like the same effect of split
right.
splicing.
Very
Okay.
similar. So you don't have to weave it in
Okay.
the end.
So slip over or cardigan?
Flip over.
With slip over, because I don't think in the UK we use the word slip over. So can you like define what you mean by
I don't
slip
know.
over?
Everyone's using different terms, and I don't know, because I've heard some people refer to it as like what I would call a sweater vest, and some
Yeah,
people
exactly.
refer
I'm
to.
thinking of a sweater vest. Yeah.
Okay, if it's between a sweater vest and a cardigan, I would still go sweater vest. Do you call this a jumper?
A jumper, yeah. Although I also say sweater, but yeah, jumper is very British. No, I'm gonna chuck this on.
That's so pretty.
Thank you. This is the novice cardigan that I was talking about before.
Hmm.
But anyway, let's
Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
So slip over cardigan. So slipovers, I'm thinking they are they're like huge cowls but with ties at the side.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
that's what I imagine a slipover is.
Because I've also heard people refer to just full-on sweaters as flipovers as well. So I don't think there's any standard.
Yeah, so my choice I think would be I only have one sweater vest. So I have more cardigans than slipovers, so I would choose a cardigan. Mild or speckled yarn?
Speckled. I'm such a speckled person. I love it. It's so fun. It's like confetti.
Okay, what is the difference? What would you say the difference is between mild and speckled?
Speckled to me is little dots everywhere. And it almost looks like, I think it's like neps or nips, I've heard them called.
Right, yeah. Okay, and then mild would be...
I would say speckled
guess
is
this
usually
would
like
be
one
mild.
color. That would be mild.
So I think I would go for speckled, because I really love like rustic yarns with neps. Just
Me too.
chef's kiss.
Like a fisherman's sweater.
Yeah, with the neps. Yeah, cream or like you said, I do have. yeah, you can't go wrong. Like, I buy the 500 gram cones from. I don't know if you know, like the woolly cones, the British 100% wool cones.
Yeah.
So I always have. That's a staple. You know, it's like having like tomato soup in the cupboard.
Yeah.
My tomato
that.
soup yarn.
I've heard you talk about it on your channel, and then Well Love Knits also had a partnership, I think, with them. Like,
Right.
they did
Okay.
a woolly knits cone knit along, and so I've been curious to try that.
was that Well Love Knits, or was it Rebecca from the Creabea? I know that she definitely had.
Oh, they both did.
Oh, really? Okay. And there
Yeah.
was another who was Knitting Traditions as well. I think she's had. I think that's how I found out about the woolly knit cones through knitting Traditions like years ago. But yeah, have you ever ordered from them?
I have not, but I am so curious. So I think in my next yarn order, but I have plenty for now.
Yeah.
But I'm
Not too many people say that. Like, I'm gonna hold
I get
off.
stressed out if I have too much. Ugh.
Oh, okay. So that should have been something that we discussed.
A question of bigger, small stash.
Yeah. What size stash do you have?
I like to have a 6-month to a 12-month supply of yarn. Anything beyond that,
Okay.
I can't. Yeah.
I like you. I like to have like a manageable, stash. I don't think I could work through this in a year, but maybe a couple.
I mean,
not buying
maybe I'm not realistically estimating how much I could knit in a year. I would say all of mine could fit in like one piece of luggage.
Intarsia or mosaic?
I have not tried mosaic, although I
Okay.
think it's very similar to stranded. except you're just knitting one color across.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a lot
stitches
easier to manage. Yeah,
than Intarsia, because Intarsia is kind of frustrating sometimes for me.
it is. Yeah, to me, it's. I have done it a few times, but it could have been neater. You know, for me, I don't think I've got it down to sort of putting. You know, you have to sort of put the strands under. I don't think I have got that technique down pat. For ease, first would be mosaic, then stranded, then Intarsia, I think.
Oh, I would go stranded / Fair Isle for my first. I love that.
Is there a particular technique for Fair Isle?
No, I looked it up and it seems like I think Fair Isle is a subsection of stranded, and I don't know the exact definition, but
okay. I thought it was just the style of sweater for the Fair Isle. I'm not sure, like with the circular yoke.
Oh yeah, just the Norwegian, like the circular yoke.
Yeah. Structure or drape? So what do you prioritize?
Drape. I do not like having clothes with a lot of stiffness or structure to them. I like the drape stuff.
The anchor sweater by Seen It, right? I'm knitting that for my husband. I have been since like November, October time. And it's knit with drops cotton merino. And the drape on that is ridiculous. And, you know, I asked my husband, like, are you gonna be happy with this? And he's like, yeah, looks good. Whereas for me, I think I like that sort of the stiffness of like the rustic situation.
This sounds this is a stereotype, but so British. Like I like really structured rustic jumpers.
Harsh.
I like comfort personally.
Austere. Yeah. But the thing is, just like linen, actually, because you said that you haven't worked with linen can be quite stiff and a bit sort of hard. So if you approach linen with the same idea as working or wearing cotton, I think you would be like, oh, linen is there's no stretch, there's no comfort. However, it literally like grows on you. So with every wear it softens up, with every wash it softens up, and so those kinds of properties with age just grow to become the things that you reach for because you've worn them in. Don't know, like it's almost like a good pair of Dr. Martens or a great leather jacket, you know, that kind of earned comfort.
You're just really selling me on I need to try linen yarns. Also, from that conversation, I'm thinking, oh, I really need to use drops merino cotton and do the anchor tee.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, so I don't know if there is a tee, but there probably is. It's probably a separate
the anchor
pattern
sweater
as well.
Yeah, it probably is. They're the same.
Okay, next is 2mm or 10mm needles.
If I could only pick between the two, I think I would go with 2mm.
Yeah, same. Yeah, without question. Although I learned with like 9-10mm needles, I think, just to get that sort of, you know, to try to understand knit stitch and the purl stitch. So it's
right on a larger scale.
Yeah, exactly. And then the final this or that question is a toe up or cuff down socks.
I've never done toe up, and I've tried to and it didn't work out.
Oh really? Okay.
I would love to, because I think that I would love that, but I do for now I'm comfortable with the
cuff down.
Thank you. Yep, that's the word.
Yeah, I've never done toe up either. But a lot of people once they do it, they tend to love it, and I think it's good for if you don't have a lot of yarn or you're not too sure, you know, how much yarn you have and how tall you can have the sock. I think it's quite good. There's a place, but I really want to learn with regards to socks. I really want to learn 2 at a time. because
I would love to try that.
Yeah, me too. I tend to suffer quite badly with second sock syndrome, and it would be nice to just not worry about that.
I'm just gonna stop agreeing to make socks for people so I don't have to.
Oh, do you often make socks for people?
Yes, and I need to stop because I love the product of having knit socks. I don't love the process as much.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna make them for myself from now on. Well, and my husband, I've been making socks for him, and he has very large feet, and I have a US size 6, which I think is a UK 5 or 4.5.
Okay.
So my socks are really small and fast.
Does he wear them a lot? Here's my booby.
So precious.
Oh, he wants to go down.
I know. I wish I had a cat that liked being picked up, but
he does sometimes. But obviously now he just wants me to pet him like this. Literally, like he just wants me to sit like this and pet him on the floor.
I like that.
Okay, so are you ready to go into the discussion questions?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Okay, so a little bit of context of where I've lived. So I've only ever lived within the United States, but where I grew up in Minnesota versus Oregon now, it's about 2,000 miles. And for reference for people in Europe that I drive that's about the distance of driving from like Edinburgh to Moscow.
Okay. It's quite specific.
Well, I ended up looking it up because I was curious of like what the European equivalent is to that distance.
Okay. What about like how long would it take, like time wise?
So me and my husband did it in one drive one day without sleeping or stopping, and it took 28 hours.
Okay. So from London to drive from London to Italy, let's say Rome, it takes 24 hours, like with welcome stops.
Yeah.
So in effect, it's 4 hours.
It takes so long to drive that.
I mean, obviously there's a
lot of major cities in there.
There's a ferry crossing in between that, and you have to drive around some of France, some of Germany, some of like Austria, and then through like northern Italy, etc. So
for us, it's just one road that goes across the entire country.
Wow.
We just follow like the entire time.
Yeah, it's quite crazy to think about the geography in the US compared to Europe. So the different cultural areas.
So yes, and then I've also lived in Ohio, which is east, so the other direction of Minnesota. And so the East Coast of the United States is very similar. I suspect just from watching British TV, it seems more similar to UK culture.
That makes sense.
And it feels more like fast paced and a little bit more serious. And then the West Coast is a lot more relaxed. And people on the West Coast will disagree with this, but people drive under the speed limit here constantly. Like on my way to work, they're driving way under the speed limit, which is not a thing on the east side of the country because no one has anywhere to be fast here.
Makes sense. So I guess if we're comparing it to Europe, I guess like the West Coast would be like the equivalent of like Southern Europe.
Yes.
You know? Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess the weather helps as well, having that, when it's warmer, things tend to be a little bit more laid back.
I think people are more stressed out in colder climates.
Yeah, for sure. Because you kind of like, I can feel it in myself. Like when it's warm, I'm more like, chill.
Yeah, when the sun's out.
Do anything else. Whereas when it's cold or there's cold in my body, it's like you can feel the difference, like the tension.
Yeah.
What are the benefits? What do you think some of the benefits are of living West Coast versus East?
Or
vice versa?
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I would love to live outside of the United States at some point in my life. That would be spectacular, but I think it's amazing to me. Most people in the United States live in the same state that they grew up in, which makes sense if you don't have a reason to leave and your family's there and whatever, but I really appreciated getting to live in different parts of the country. And I think there's something really beneficial about picking up and moving away from everyone that you know. And I did that when I was in college, and so it was a very like formative time in my life. So it was nice to fully separate, and I'm gonna
Yeah. Did
sound
you do that
so
alone? Did you
dramatic.
do that on your own
Yeah,
when you
so I
moved?
did it, yeah, for 6 months I lived in Ohio, and then for 6 months I lived in Portland. And
Okay.
that was, I didn't know anybody in Portland. And
What made you decide to what made you choose Portland, and what made you decide to stick around? What was it about
I
there?
wish I knew Europe better so that I could pull some equivalents. So I'll just try to describe it as best I can. But Minnesota is very flat and there's beautiful nature, but you have to drive really far to see it.
Hmm.
And in the Portland, Oregon area, there are so many amazing natural features that I just have never gotten to be exposed to in my life. So getting to see a mountain on a daily basis is wild.
Yeah.
Getting to see the ocean, which is only an hour away whenever I want, is, I didn't get to see the ocean until I was like 20. So, no,
So
I'm kidding. And then,
that was what
yeah,
called you? Like that was the primary thing, nature?
the nature, the weather, and the culture. People are so nice. I get constant, me and my husband both get stopped constantly out in public for people to say, "Oh, your outfit's so cute," or "I love your sweater." And girls have like rolled down their windows driving by to be like, "You look really cute today."
Oh,
And
wow.
I just love that.
And you're
Who
like,
wouldn't?
thank you. I think I'll stay.
Yeah. What is this place?
So I have lived outside of the UK for some time. So I lived in Barcelona, Spain, for 11 years,
Amazing.
and I actually made the decision to move at like 7 o'clock in the morning. I worked
Yeah.
in London to travel on the tube, and it was 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was just like going to work, and two men almost started fighting. There was like so much hostility, and
Mhm.
I worked in an area where I was getting the tube at, and when it was dark, working all day in like not getting any sunlight because where I worked, obviously there
Yeah.
are windows, but it's artificial fluorescent light all day. And by the time I'm finished, it's, the sun had gone down. So I wasn't getting any sunlight. So I was like, there has to be more to life than this, And
Yeah.
I had, at the time, I had visited Barcelona twice. And each time I was like, actually, this is somewhere I could live. That feeling where
Yeah.
like I could do this. And so at that moment on the tube, I just thought, I don't want to live where people are so aggressive and wanting to fight at 7 o'clock in the morning. So I thought, and I might just make the decision then and there to move. And so it took me like 1 year to prepare myself, like to
Mhm.
prepare the move, prepare my finances and all of that. So
And
in
moving
the end,
internationally is a big deal.
yeah, yeah, but I just thought, okay, there's nothing really keeping me here, and I know that I can come back, no problem.
Mhm.
So essentially, like I saved money for a year, and I, did did what I needed to do, and in the end, I had an idea of like a safety net of
Mhm.
I'm going to just put all my belongings in my brother's cellar.
Yeah.
And I literally left the UK with a laptop bag in a laptop bag and one suitcase, and that was it, and like started my new life. But my safety net was I will give myself 6 months,
Mhm.
just not doing, just chilling and seeing whether I can actually do this
Mhm.
properly. And while I was there, just things just came together like effortlessly, you know, effortlessly. And so I thought, okay, um, and then 11 years later, I'm
Mhm.
still
No
still
kidding.
there. So,
So, question for you. That when you talk about it, it sounds like a dream. Like anyone hearing that would be like, "Oh my gosh, yes, I want to do that." Did it feel like a dream at the time? Was there a lot more stress? Did it feel like a big deal? Would you recommend
um,
other people do it?
I would definitely recommend others do it, because obviously now with Brexit and stuff, it's not as easy as I found it, because residency and medical cards and stuff like that, social
Mhm.
security. I just had to like go one morning, get to the office at like 9, and within like a couple of hours I had all my documents that I needed to get work and live,
Mhm.
everything like that I needed in Spain. So I don't know what the process is now with Brexit and everything,
Yeah.
because that was super easy, and the confidence that you
Mhm.
you get in yourself, that you can do that, you can move somewhere where I didn't know anybody there, and make friends, make connections, and and also in my part of my preparation, I was going to like evening classes, like learning
Mhm.
Spanish and things like that.
Yeah.
So I did what I could while working full time to prepare myself as best I can. Um, but it wasn't all amazing. In the
Right.
beginning, I was like, oh my god, like doubting myself, like, did I make the right decision? Just jacking in everything, but I think at the time my life in London was pretty empty. Like I had my family there and everything, but because I had moved outside of London for university and then I moved back, I didn't really have a social life. I was literally, I didn't have much in London,
Right.
so it was enough to sort of to explore other things. And I
Yeah.
think that we in life we have to sort of make these kinds of decisions and weigh up,
Mhm.
otherwise we just get stuck, and
Oh
that's a
yeah.
recipe for
My husband.
unhappiness.
Oh, no kidding. My husband and I are slowly learning Spanish in hopes that it'll open up the possibilities. Not saying we'll definitely move to a Spanish speaking country, but at least it's more, like it won't be as scary, the idea of moving.
Where would you want to live if you ever like moved away from the US?
Oh, there's so many places I would be comfortable living. But the first ones that come to mind, I really like Central America, and I'm
Okay.
not saying that from like a resort
Whereabouts?
perspective because I've been to Honduras, like mainland Honduras,
Okay.
which is called like the murder capital of the world, but basic street smarts, you'll be fine. Or be a white American and know that if they kidnap you, then your government will come and pick you up because it's a news story. There's so much privilege in that. um, so I never felt wildly uncomfortable, even in like the sketchier villages and smaller towns. And I really liked the culture in the smaller villages when you
Hmm.
get out of the cities. It's such a
To
vibrant
live,
culture
not visit. You would
to live.
go, okay, wow. So like you would live in Honduras, or when we say Central America, are we talking
I think
like
I would like look up
Mexico?
and shop around different countries and
Shop
see what
around,
it is the
investigate.
smartest choice.
Yeah.
Put a little bit of thought into it.
So are you ready to move on to the next?
Absolutely. Obviously, it depends, at least from the United States perspective, of where in the United States you are, because the cultures are very different in the North versus the South, and then East and West. Those are like the four main quadrants. Overall, I would say at work we talk about this a lot. So I work internationally with a lot of people, and people in Southeast Asia, I would say, are the most work driven, um, and just have a very strong work priority. And
Mhm.
then people I work with in Western Europe are much more relaxed about work. So
Mm.
when you email like both people, the person in Southeast Asia, it doesn't matter if it's 2 a.m. on a Saturday, they're going to email you back immediately. And then in Europe, they're like, no, I'm on vacation for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Leave me
So that
alone.
boundary is very, because
Is there?
yeah, and I work with French people and they are
Yeah.
very much like
French
that.
people, especially. And I feel like the United States just falls somewhere in the middle. Um, a lot of my coworkers in Europe will make comments of like, "Oh, Americans don't know how to relax, and you don't know how to take a vacation." We want to. We really, really want to, but we don't have vacation requirements at our work, so they aren't required to give us like a vacation. Some of my friends have
What's
6 days of
your,
vacation a year.
how many days? 60?
6 days, not for me.
Six.
Um, Six. My sister has 6 days of vacation a year. I have 15.
I think the standard, like the statutory, is I think 25 in the
In the
UK.
UK.
Yeah,
If a company in the United States offered that, they would have so many applications. Oh boy, everyone would want to work there. And then for work, we always have to plan around certain regions, like Golden Week in China is a week
oh
where everyone is off of work and most people take 2 weeks off of work. So no
yeah,
factories are doing anything. And
yeah. And the thing is, I work for a French company, so I get a lot of theirs as well. Because if you see me looking down, I'm actually looking at our questions, which we composed together to discuss. So with regards to like leisure time, so we talked about like the work and the
Mhm.
attitudes, roughly like the differences between like international attitudes to work. But what about like leisure time? Like, um,
I don't think there's enough. Obviously, I think
of
most people are
leisure.
going to say that. Speaking from the United States perspective, I don't think people prioritize leisure time enough.
Mm,
Um,
mm. So when we say leisure time, are we also including like in the evenings, like watching TV or eating dinner, like when your
I would say
downtime
anytime you're not
daily?
doing chores or working,
Okay, right, the daily
I would
downtime.
consider that downtime,
Yeah,
time that you get to
yeah,
choose whatever you want to do.
yeah.
Sorry. I think a lot of people are just so exhausted that in their leisure time, they are only watching TV or just doing something that doesn't require any sort of energy because you're just
Mm.
exhausted. And I think that's part of the problem why people like are not left over with enough energy to engage in any sort of craft or hobby that they
Well,
want
that's
to do.
the thing. Yeah, because if you think about it, if you're working, let's say 40 hours a week, right? That is quite a lot. I think there's quite a lot of our lives. And so when we're not working, obviously there are other responsibilities because I
Mhm.
think obviously we're neither of us have children, and so that automatically gives us that
Yeah,
freedom to make our leisure time really our own.
absolutely.
So I have mad respect for people who do like YouTube channels and stuff like that, and they also have
They
children.
have kids. Yes. Oh my gosh, that's why I never feel bad. I don't know if you watch Laura Penrose, but she has kids and
I
they'll come
don't
in
know.
and she's just a knitwear designer in the UK and she has kids and
I
they'll
know
come
of
in and
her, but
she's filming.
I don't
Oh, okay.
watch her. Yeah.
Gotcha. And she'll always apologize and be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Or her kids will be screaming in the background. It's like, "No, man, you have kids. You cannot control those things."
That is true. Yeah.
What do you feel like the culture is like in the UK regarding hobbies? Do you feel like a lot of people have hobbies? Do you feel like they do hobbies, and what types of hobbies? Because I feel like
Um
on the West Coast, there's a lot of athletic hobbies. Like those are considered a good use of time and productive. So people will do that,
mm,
like running and hiking and.
I think it depends on the age group, you know. When I was in my 20s, early 30s, to be honest with you, I no 30s I'm not going to say because I did prioritize hobbies then, but in my 20s I didn't prioritize hobbies. So I think it depends in my experience on your age. Like my friends now who are my age
Mhm,
prioritize their hobbies, even though they're working full time, even though they have children, etc.
mhm.
They do have their own hobbies. Like cycling is a big one. Um, sport like gym, things like that. I have very few. I have a sewist friend who
Mhm.
loves to sew. Some people who are really interested in art and things like that. So people my age do prioritize hobbies, but I think in their 20s, I think people are more like at least for me, my priority was going out and socializing with friends. I would say that
Yeah.
that was my interest, that was my hobbies. But then I think when
Mhm.
something changed when I reached my 30s because I was single then, and I was like, okay, I was on dating apps and things like that. And
Mhm.
then when it came to like filling out profiles, it's like, what am I interested in? And that really got to me because I was like, don't
Dating
have
profiles are
much
tough, man.
don't have much to put down. And that really made me look at myself and be
Yeah.
like, no, I have to change this. So that's when I started getting into like drumming, taking drumming lessons and going to yoga and things like that. Just so
Wow.
that just to try to be a person of substance.
So I'm just amazed that you took up drumming like not as a kid.
No,
But as an
no, as
adult,
an adult, yeah.
I applaud the heck out of anybody that picks up a hobby when they're older,
Yeah.
like above the age of 20, I'll say, because that's awesome.
Yeah, I had a great drum teacher, an Argentinian guy called Hernan Rios. So look him up
Hmm.
on Instagram because he's an amazing. They're called drum maestros, and yeah, absolutely amazing. And also I started doing yoga, which was a great complement to it because
Hmm.
when you first start drumming, it really takes a battering on your wrists. So when
Hmm.
you're doing things like upward dog and things like that, it's really good wrist strengthener. So yeah, so I started to do that and investigating different things. So I think
Yeah.
in the UK, I would say it depends on your age, you know?
Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
and I would just say to like a lot of my friends will say that they don't have time for hobbies or don't have time to craft because that's where I think knitting and crochet are like the best hobbies because these people are watching quite a bit of TV or listening to podcasts or listening to
Mm,
audiobooks. You can do those things at the same time.
that is
And it
true.
doesn't feel like a huge time sink to me. Like when I think, oh, it took 20 hours to make or 40 hours or whatever to make a sweater, it doesn't feel like
Yeah.
wasted time because that's time I would have been sitting on the couch watching TV.
I actually advice that I would give to my younger self would be to invest more time in hobbies and interests and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Always had interests, like things that I'm interested in, things that I want to learn about. I've always had that, but not physical things that I do, hobbies just for myself. And I think
Mm-hmm.
advice to younger people would be like explore the hobbies, you know.
Yeah, I love
Okay,
that.
next is changing the tone a little bit. So the
Mhm.
next question is about the environment.
So that's a big part of my job is being aware of regulations coming from different regions. So I'm very familiar with the EU waste directive that keeps getting updated. And I know
Hmm.
France in Europe is the country that's usually the one being like, hey, we have this cool environmental initiative. Everyone else has to do it.
Hmm.
And they're usually leading the charge with stuff. And then for us, it's California that's
Hmm.
always the one making these policies. So I think California and the EU both have regulation coming through soon saying you have to have 30% recycled plastic in all of your plastic packaging.
Yeah.
So I feel like I know for a fact, as far as regulations are concerned, that Europe is way ahead of the United States. The United States is so far behind, and it's really upsetting to look up stats on how often is stuff recycled. Like when you put something in the recycling bin, only a
Mm,
small percentage
yeah.
of that actually gets recycled.
Now, actually, in the stores, I'm beginning to see them changing packaging drastically.
Hmm.
So it's like the packaging on in general is like 90%, you know, they sort of say things like this
Yeah.
packet is 90% recyclable, you know, which is
Hmm.
great. But things like Pringles
Hmm.
tubs, they're like really bad because there's like five different types of materials
Yes.
in the tub, and they all require different levels of recycling. So
So, fun fact for you, I'm a packaging engineer and I went to school for packaging. And so we
oh wow.
study,
Yeah.
um, like the Pringles can is, that's a lot of layers. Those are so bad.
Yeah,
But
and
I think we're going to start,
they're horrible anyway. But
right.
that's the one package that I remember because I remember seeing the
Mhm.
program on it, and they were saying that things like that. The people like put them in the like paper recycling because obviously the tube seems like
Right.
on the outside it's paper,
But
but on
there's
the
metal
inside it's like
and plastic.
aluminium or metal
Yeah.
and plastic, and then the lid is plastic at the top, but then you've
Yeah.
got the foil or paper or plastic. I don't know what.
So usually what it is the innermost layer is a food safe plastic coating that goes over a metal layer, and the metal layer is what helps keep the food inside fresh. And then there's the paper layer providing the structure around it, which is the thicker one. And then on the outside of that there's usually a coating of like a bleached paper that
Okay.
they print on, and then they put a plastic coating over that. It's a lot.
So yeah, and then imagine the cost it would take for like local, because the thing is in the UK we have different facilities depending on your region, depending on your
Mhm.
county for
Mhm.
recycling.
Same.
So obviously not every area, every region is going to have the facilities to separate something like that. So obviously you think like the consumer thinks that they're doing well, or
Mhm.
by sorting out their recycling, but really this is what my in-laws do. I have to, well, they're retired so they have the time to do it, but they actually would go through and separate areas of the packaging. So for example, if you have a paper bag with a little plastic window, sometimes
Yep, I'll rip
for
that
like
off.
baked goods or something, yeah, break that off and separate it like that. But obviously most people don't do that, and they just put the whole thing into
Mhm.
like the paper recycling and things like that. Yeah, the consumer thinks that they're doing good by sorting out their packaging.
Mhm.
However, if the plant, if for example things are contaminated or things are mixed up, they just don't even bother to sort it. They
Yeah,
just,
they have to get rid of the entire batch.
yeah, exactly. So it's a contentious, but also I have a question for you for the
Mhm.
supermarkets. Do you still in the US, do you still are like plastic bags still
It depends on
readily
where you are.
available?
So where I live in Oregon and in California on the West Coast, have plastic bags at a lot of places, but they do not just offer them up and they cost money.
Okay, yeah. So it's same in the UK. Actually, it's very unusual to actually get a plastic bag, because before you could like pay like 5p or whatever for a plastic bag, but now they
Yeah.
have increased the amount the bags cost, but they're not single-use plastic bags. They're like
Mhm.
bag
Thicker?
for lives. Yeah, they're thicker and
Yeah,
you can use them. So
they're the same.
most people come equipped when they go to the supermarket to
Mhm.
bring their own bags, which is good.
I'm getting better at that. I'd
But
just see more recycling in the yarn space personally.
what
I'm
do you
not in,
mean?
so like plastic can be chemically recycled, not all plastic, but some. And it sounds kind of scary, but it's just breaking, like if you have a plastic yarn down, it's just breaking it down to its individual monomers and
Hmm.
then putting that into a new fresh plastic. And
Okay.
it's, you can do that with plastics that you can't mechanically recycle. So it just offers up more recycling possibilities, but it's kind of an expensive process. So I would like to see more innovative uses of recycling. And I think we could be doing that a lot more. With fibers,
Mm,
I would also love to start seeing more. There's so much clothing waste. So,
mm.
like, I would really love to see yarn made out of clothing waste. I think that'd be really interesting.
Yeah, that would be good. The only thing about that though is the breaking down process uses really harsh chemicals, and which
Yeah.
can leach microplastics into. So when you do have that new garment that has been
Hmm.
made, the danger with that is that great, it's recycled, but what was the process to get that
I, the thing about
garment?
like sustainability that everyone I think can relate to is it's so simple, but it's so complicated. So the simple thing is just make less, use less. And
Mm,
like the reduce, reuse, recycle in that order, then it just gets so complicated beyond that. So like the Pringles can, for example, if they were to switch that to an all recyclable material, then the Pringles would expire much faster, leading to more food waste. So do
yeah,
we want to prioritize
that's
the food waste or the
yeah,
packaging waste? And
yeah.
it just sucks that every time you like do something good, it means something else is usually.
Well, that's the problem. Yeah. So I guess the crux of it is just to consume less. Like we all have that responsibility so back to that question though, do you think that in the US there is an attitude of it's my money and I've worked hard for this money, so I don't tell me how to spend my money. Like if I want to buy whatever it is and copious amounts of it, I'm going
Yeah.
to do that. It's,
It sounds very
F everything
American.
else.
Say because I've lived in what are called blue states. So
Okay.
more
progressive.
Yes, thank you. So in Oregon, that is the culture is way more prioritizing sustainability, and like all of the buses in Portland are starting to be transitioned to all electric buses instead of gas buses, and so like it's just a bigger priority here. And then in Minnesota, like a little bit less than Oregon, but it's still a big priority. And then when you go to certain regions, it's like, don't tell me what to do. I'm gonna do whatever I want. It's a free country.
Yeah, I asked that question because I do see it online. I do see whenever like this conversation comes up, there are people who have that attitude, and I'm not saying that in the UK things are any better, or in Europe things are better. But
I think it's okay to say that. I think it is. It's the United States is a very individualistic culture, just on paper, and you can look up any research.
That's how you guys became the United States, right?
Right.
That's the foundation
of independence,
guys.
4th of July is coming up. So everyone starts. Sorry, individualistic, whereas Europe is more collectivist, and then lots of regions in Asia are like extremely collectivist. And so I think you see the like caring and actually enacting environmental responsibility relates to those values so closely.
Yeah.
I love this. So I think this is excellent. So I have the Japanese like knitting stitch Bible, which like, not that that's the end all be all of Japanese fiber arts, but I think it's amazing how different regions have taken the same craft and interpreted it different ways. I love like when you look at a traditional Norwegian Fair Isle sweater, you know what you're looking at, that is a traditional Norwegian Fair Isle sweater. And so I love how culture has influenced knitting.
Okay, so different style, like stylistically and like techniques and stuff. Okay. To be honest with you, I don't know very much about like American yarns, like American trends with knitting. Would you say that there are any like distinctly American trends with knitting, or particular popular yarns and things like that? Because we don't, in the UK, we don't have much, apart from like Pearl Soho, because of their marketing and stuff. There isn't really very much that I think of as American. Like, we don't have a lot of access to American yarns.
I think we have, it's not easy to get wool. I think it's more difficult to find natural fibers in the United States.
Okay.
And it's a lot easier to find synthetic fibers, which is why synthetic fibers are so widely used here. Because if you go to a craft store that sells yarn, you might find cotton, and you will likely not find 100% wool. It'll be mixed with synthetic fiber. As far as like trends regarding design and stuff, I think it's very similar to things that are trending in Europe, only because Europe is so influential in the fiber arts world. In general, if you look at like Ravelry and the most popular knitting patterns in most active countries, this might not be true anymore, but I looked a year ago, and I think the United States wasn't even in the top 10.
Oh, okay. But thing about what you were saying with the synthetic fibers, I would say that it's the same in the UK, because if you go to like the mom and pop type of local yarn stores, you will get, because the patrons of those types of stores are like 60, 70 years old, and they have probably been knitting for a very long time, and they're just accustomed to knitting with acrylic and things like that. So, because I have like a local yarn store, and I actually struggled to find anything like 100% wool, so it's mostly blends, synthetic blends.
Interesting.
Whereas the small sort of yarn stores that I've been to in Sweden, it was all sort of those types of trending reputable, you know, trending companies like Isaiah and, you know, like these kinds of like yarns that are very popular. They're very easy to access and they're relatively cheap as well. So I think that influences what people are using, what people have access to. I don't know why in our local yarn stores in the UK it's mostly
That's interesting
man-made
to me
fibers.
because when you go to a yarn shop, a specific yarn shop in the United States, there aren't a ton of them, at least in the areas that I live. They are pretty good about having a lot of natural fibers when you get to the smaller shops, but they're crazy expensive. So something like this would be probably $25 or 20 a pound.
Oh,
It's insanely expensive. A single hank of hand
yeah,
dyed is
that's
like
under
$30.
£5 in if you buy it online. That's under £5.
That's why I buy drops.
Yeah, so that's what I meant. The drops
Yeah.
specifically is a budget yarn, you know,
hmm
which is problematic in itself because you
Oh,
think,
absolutely. There's
why is
ethics
that
and
so cheap?
sustainability stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Do you foresee any knitting trends?
Okay, what do you think? Do you have any ideas?
How do you feel about trends in the knitting world? Because I know that there are certain creators, and it is quite fun, like to watch some of their videos. But there are certain people who are led by what is going on in fact, like they have a general
Right.
interest in fashion, and they have, you know, and they happen to be makers as well. So obviously what is going on in fashion is going to also color what they
hmm
knit and what they show. So that's always interesting to watch because I don't really approach it in that way. But I
Right.
think that the mohair with everything or the alpaca with everything, I think people will move
Yeah.
away from that.
I joined the knitting community at the height of that, and so I thought that that was just normal, and that everyone
Like,
always
yeah,
forever has
mohair
just
has
included mohair in
everybody
everything.
in a
The
chokehold.
chokehold. I was like, I tried it once. I didn't like it. I like trends in general. I think it's fun when everyone can join in on something. There was one point where everyone was knitting the Sophie scarf and doing the Chris. Do you know have you seen the Sophie scarf?
Yeah.
The petite
The
knit one.
croissant.
Yeah, and everyone was doing the croissant
Yeah, because it does
Instagram photo
it
with it.
does photograph really well as the croissant.
Yes, it does. And then like a year later, everyone realized that they're like kind of impractical to wear, which is
They
funny.
literally have you in a
In
chokehold.
chokehold. I have not worn mine as a scarf because when you do, any way you tie it, it just like rotates around your neck the whole day.
That is
And
true.
it will not stay in that cute position that you put it in.
It is, yeah,
But
that is true. However, did you knit the first size, the small
yeah,
size? Yeah, it is a little bit small, to be honest with you. However, I find that just tying it what like as in a bow
hmm
is fine, and it is great for that small window. There are a couple of small windows in the
hmm
year where all you need is a Sophie scarf.
right.
You know, it's perfect weather for it. But yeah, the sizing is an issue. The sizing is an issue
Oh
that
yeah. I wear mine as a
now,
headband now because it functions perfectly as that.
yeah.
But
Mine's made of cashmere though, so I don't want to use it as a headband. No, I've got two. I've made two, and I've made a
yeah.
third as a gift.
hmm
So the cashmere one, the small one,
hmm
is great as it is. But it is, yeah, it is a little bit on the small side, but I can work with it. But the bigger one, it's not quite the second size. I think I
hmm
just sort of knit sort of the in between because
I
that's how much
yeah
yarn I had,
yeah.
and it's quite thick. I use that as a headband, like, or to tie my hair, and that works
Yeah.
because it's not cashmere. So yeah.
Well, I think the main lesson from this is trends are really fun and it's fun to be a part of, but I think it's important to be thoughtful of am I actually going to use this? Am I actually going to wear this? Am I going to like it 2 years from now?
Yeah, that's the thing. I just, for example, the trend that I couldn't get on board with is the sort of meshy, like the sort of mesh trend, like the who's that designer? James M. Watts.
I was just about to say that. Yep.
His stuff, great. I have knitted the rib lace raglan before.
I think you need the personality to wear, like, that needs to be your style.
That needs to be your personality.
Yes. So I personally am obsessed with meshy stuff, and so I've jumped 2 feet in onto that trend.
Okay,
we'll see how that ages.
So when do you wear it? Like, how do you wear it? Because I'm not saying that I have never like rocked a meshy top, right? That would be silly, because I have done in the past. I wasn't the one to make it, but I have worn it. But I just don't find it, like, I don't find that sort of window. Unlike the Sophie scarf, there's no sort of real window where I feel like this is practical.
So if I'm going to wear them to work, I have this tight white turtleneck, or it's not a very high turtleneck, and just hugs the skin. And so I'll put it on. Yes, thank you. And so I'll put it over that, or in the summer, if I'm able to be a little bit more casual, I have like bras that go up so crazy. Like, I have some like are more like tank tops or athletic tank tops. So and go like very far down.
Works. Yeah. So you're not wearing like a bra or like with that,
like going to Coachella.
Not that. Not that there's anything wrong with that at all, but I think for me, like, nobody wants to see that.
I mean, I have only just started making these, so I haven't really been wearing them yet. So I'll let you know. Maybe.
Okay. Yes.
There could be an update in a year of like, this was a mistake. Don't do that.
Yeah. So do you foresee? Actually, no. So like I said about like foreseeing trends. Yeah, I foresee like people sort of dropping, because I think people are starting to react to holding 2 strands together. I think that will fall by the wayside.
Bamboo will be interesting to look at, because it's kind of on the rise, and people are like, oh, bamboo, it's cool, but it's not perfect like cotton, sustainability wise. So I think when people find that out,
it's stretched, like the integrity of it,
and
is
it's incredibly drapey, at least the ones that I've worked with. And so I think a lot of people are gonna like flock to it and then pull back.
But possibly. And it's not very durable in my experience.
No.
Not very durable. But
you have to be careful what you're making with it.
One trend that I hope will pick up is I'm really enjoying wearing the romanticist bandana. I don't know if you know this pattern, but it's just a triangular bandana with the ties. I think that's a lot more practical than the Sophie scarf if you just need a small scarf.
Yeah. I think bandanas are definitely going to have a moment.
I hope so. They're great. So versatile.
Because they're fast to make. It's a stash buster. They're like somewhat practical. And if it's not, it's kind of like the Sophie scarf. Why so many people did it. It's like you're not wasting that much yarn if you don't like it.
Yeah,
and so
I think it's a lot more. It's easier to wear, and a lot more. You get more coverage.
I also think that crochet is going to start dominating a little bit more than it previously has, because I feel like a lot of people in 2020 learned crochet over knitting. At least in the United States, crochet is very popular with like younger people. So even people that don't do it, it's trending in fashion.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of people really want crochet items in their wardrobe. So I feel like that's going to happen. I would like to start seeing more combinations, so like crochet and knitting together in the same pieces.
Okay. I am not a fan of crochet.
Yeah.
I just don't like the way
the look of it, the process of it.
Yeah. Not the well, the process, I'm not a very good crocheter. Like, I think I've done it to do a chain for something, but it's not really something that I enjoy, and I don't really like the look of crochet. Like,
I don't like the sweaters personally that are just single crochet or double crochet everywhere. I like the polished look of
okay,
knitwear, but there are certain things with crochet that I like better. Like when you attempt to do something that looks meshy, I like the look on crochet
okay.
better than when you attempt to do mesh with knitting.
That's fair because my grandma used to do the doilies, I said, and like that
Mhm.
was all done via crochet. So there is, yes. See, I wouldn't mind learning crochet for things around the home because I think that they can be quite
I
nice.
love crochet for homeware. I
Mm.
just made my first crochet wearable item, so we'll see if I end up liking that.
Okay. Okay. So we've got a lot of things in the wings that you need to still like road
Mm-hmm.
test, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm in a transition standpoint. I also just collected so many like whips, and now I'm facing the aftermath of that decision of casting out so many projects. So I have
Okay.
a lot of stuff that is in the works and not quite finished.
Okay. So that's the best time. I love when you've got like just things like just flying off the needles because I'm a little way I'm a little way from that because I'm right in the sort of where everything seems like it's halfway done. Nothing's nearly
Yeah,
finished. So
yeah.
okay, so next question is uh oh, actually, sorry, there are some other like additional. So trending designers, do you foresee any trending designers, yarn patterns or colors?
That's a good question. For colors, I would
It's
say just get
it's
whatever is
tagged
happening in.
on. It's just tagged on to the previous one.
Right. I I honestly don't know. I don't know what designers are going to be super trending because I feel like that's so unpredictable because someday a designer will just come out with something that's so unique and interesting that everyone just
Mm,
flocks to it and all of a sudden
mm.
that designer will be trending.
Thing because I usually just like browse. Like I usually have an idea of something that I want to make. Then I
Mhm.
browse, I do a search, and then that's how I pick my designs.
Yeah, it's kind of like liking songs by a singer, but not liking all the songs or picking
Yeah,
and choosing which ones you listen to
yeah,
repeatedly.
which singles or which albums or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Colors, trending colors or
Trending
color
colors,
combinations.
I think right now, this was last year as well. Cobalt blue and cherry red both having a moment. What happens next? But I just look at whatever's happening in interior design and
Uh,
fashion are going to influence what comes up. So I think people are going to move into lots of greens and yellows.
okay, I'm thinking oranges. I think oranges
Yeah.
will. Well,
It's
oranges
been a
people
while since oranges had a
always.
moment, so it's due.
Exactly. So it's due to come back. Right. So the final question is
Do you have any immediate thoughts on this?
no,
Okay.
no.
So I hear this a lot personally. I feel like a lot of people who do a craft might relate to this. Have you heard that before from other people?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
It's kind of frustrating to hear because it's like I didn't know how to do it either, and then I learned. You haven't seen my first projects; they were pretty rough. So I feel like
Do
there are
you
lots of
think
people
it's a
out there.
backhanded compliment? Do you think it's a bit of a, when people say that? Do you think it could be seen as a backhanded compliment?
A little bit, and I almost see it as frustrating of like, well, if you wanted to learn, you would.
Yeah. That's it. That's the only response to it. I often
Yeah.
think that, but I don't say it. I just kind of
Yeah.
because when people say that sometimes it's like I prioritize my time to do other things, other more
Hmm.
important things. It feels.
Yeah, right. I see that. I I've also taught enough people how or tried to teach enough people how to knit and crochet that the lesson I've learned from it is once people learn, so many people say they want to learn and do stuff, but they don't. Um, which was my thing. I was like, oh, if you just learn how to do it, then you'll know how to do it and you'll want to do it. That just makes sense. But I've taught so many people that are like, okay, I learned that, and then they don't touch it ever again. And they're like, a
Mm.
thing. But I feel like most people, they see it and they want the knit items, but they don't want to make
Ah,
it.
okay. So I think we're talking about a different thing then. So
Okay,
to
yeah.
say I could never, so what I was talking
Mhm.
about is felt like it was I could never spend that time doing what you spent
Oh,
that
yeah.
doing, right? So
I, yeah.
that's how I've had it said to me. Whereas I think you might be talking about I could never learn to do
Right.
it.
I could
Is that
never be
what?
capable of doing this.
Okay. So that's a different thing, which is fair
Yeah.
enough, I think. No?
It's interesting hearing your perspective too.
Yeah, it could be interpreted. It's that I could never
Now that I'm
is like
thinking about it, I do know people that have like, I could never make time for that, is exactly what
exactly.
you're saying.
Yeah. Which is I think we touched on that yesterday, right? When it was like, oh, I could never um spend that time.
Right.
But it's like I could never spend that time doing something that you like to, this is the beauty of life that we get to choose how we spend our time.
Exactly. You won't see me running a marathon and I won't see you knitting a sweater. Oh, wait, I do have a question for you, and you don't have
Yeah.
to include this, but what is tea time?
So tea time is usually, if you work in an office, it can be
Mhm.
either like 11 o'clock or in the morning or um 3 o'clock.
Okay.
And it's just you have a cup of tea or a coffee with a snack.
hmm Do a
It's
lot
like
of people
fika, like in
participate?
Spain. Not in Spain, in Sweden, they have fika,
hmm
which is like
hmm
a hot drink or a drink with like a cake or a little sandwich or something like that. Cinnamon
Okay.
bun is quite common. So yeah, tea time is similar. So you would have like a cup of tea
hmm
with and it's not like an official thing, but yeah, a lot of people have
Kind of like
it.
an unspoken.
Yeah, like would you like a cup of tea? And then or if you have guests at around
Mhm.
that time, you're going to have guests at just before
Okay.
lunchtime or just before dinner.
Right, in
It's
those
just,
in between meals portions.
yeah, it's almost like an official snack, you know?
Okay. I was asking everyone I know, and everyone was like, I have no idea. We don't know if it's like a specific time of day, like 3 p.m. is tea
Yeah,
time, and
3 p.m.
everyone.
is the traditional time to have it. It's like, especially traditionally, like lunchtime was at
Mhm,
12
mhm.
and dinner is around between 5 and 6 o'clock. And so tea time is just that in between
In
where
between.
you can have like, and you can also go to restaurants and have like an afternoon tea. I don't know if that
I
is,
like that. No, that is.
no. So afternoon tea is traditional where you have like a tray which is like on three levels.
Mhm.
So the bottom level typically would be sandwiches, like little finger sandwiches
Yeah,
with delicate, like you can have like salmon with
I've
cream
done this
cheese
once.
and like cucumber and ham, like
Mhm.
little cute sandwiches. Then, so that's what you would have first. Then the next level would be cream teas, which would be
Mhm.
scones, which are, I would say that scones are like biscuits in America,
Yeah,
like, yeah, with
we
clotted
also have
cream.
scones.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And
Yeah,
they're served with jam, but you call
yeah.
that jelly, right?
We call
Jelly.
it both. So jam
Oh,
has the fruit bits in it, and then jelly is like completely blended, and there's no
okay.
chunks.
So it would be jam then, typically strawberry or something like that, some kind of preserve with
Mhm.
clotted cream, and then on the top, you would have like your little fancies or cakes.
Mhm.
So that's your, and then served with a pot of tea, English
I
breakfast.
like that. We need to do that, Americans. Come on.
So yeah, so that's quite a common thing to go out for. So you can go out for brunch, you can go out for breakfast, lunch,
Mhm.
afternoon tea, or dinner.
That's so cool. Okay. Thank you for explaining that. I've been
I
curious for
think
a
I
long
will
time.
leave that in because that I think quite a lot of people would
I think that's a good
probably be
moment. Yeah.
interested. How
I'm
did
gonna
you
start doing
find
that with
about
my
it?
friends.
How did you find out about tea time?
Because people talk about it. They're like, oh, it's tea time, or like, oh, I gotta pick up my kids from school and then we'll have tea time. And I was like, but
Oh, okay. Now you've just opened up another can of worms because
yeah,
some people call tea time, or they're going to have their tea, or they're going to have
yeah.
people say tea, which
Mhm.
is another word for dinner.
Oh, okay.
So if they say they're going to have their tea, or I need
Yeah.
to make the kids their tea, it's not their
Mhm.
drinking tea, it's their dinner.
Gotcha. Okay.
This is that there's a lot of YouTubers, American YouTubers, who are like big on tea.
It's
So
very
has
trendy.
has it? Oh, okay.
Tea's gotten way more popular. Matcha just like punched everyone in the face with popularity. Everyone's
Ah,
obsessed. Bubble tea, all the teas.
okay. Um, my husband is a super tea drinker. Like he
Yeah.
has like about, I don't know, 12 cups of tea a day, and they're like
Nice.
one
Big
pint
ones.
cups.
Hmm.
So anyway, shall we
Yeah,
wrap this up?
absolutely.
Okay, so it was great having this conversation with you today.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank
I
you for
hope you're.
having me.
Oh no, no problem. It was great to have to chat with you on both days.
Mhm. I really appreciate having gotten to know you a little bit and having some fun conversations over the past couple days.
Yeah,
It's
for
been really nice.
sure.
Yeah.
Bye, folks.
Bye.
Thanks for watching, and as always, feel free to add anything to the discussion in the comments below. Additionally, if you'd like to see this as a series where I talk to various creators in a video style like this, please let me know in the comments. If you're watching and you are also a maker or creator, feel free to get in touch or write me in the comments below. See you in the next one. Bye.